Well, Happy New Year, and thank you so much for joining us this evening for our 2023 Community Health Education Series. My name is Ivania Covington, and I am the Community Partnership Coordinator for Faith-Based Partnerships and Senior Strategies in the Social Responsibility Department here at Baptist Health. Our topic for this first month of the new year is balanced diet and nutrition. And we have a special guest speaker tonight who I will be introducing in just a moment. But first, I would like to just change the slide there. I would like to be able to review with you tonight the agenda. I'm going to review a couple of housekeeping items. We're going to have the presentation and the Q&A directly following that. And finally, I'll end with some brief closing announcements. So there are just 3 housekeeping announcements that I would like to share with you all on today. First, we are recording tonight's session, and it will be made available to all of the registrants. Secondly, we are tracking attendance. So if you've invited others to join and to view with you who didn't have an opportunity to register, we first like to say thank you so much for spreading the word about tonight's session. And so we just ask that you add their name to the chat so that we can document their attendance for our records. And thirdly, we will be monitoring the chat during the presentation. So please feel free to type your questions there during the presentation, and they will be addressed during the Q&A segment. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our speaker for the evening. Ms. Mary Beth Torres is a registered dietitian and leads the Baptist Team Member Health and Wellness. She joined Baptist in January 2020, and prior to coming to Baptist, Mary Beth brings over 20 years of experience in healthcare and corporate with expertise in diabetes, chronic condition management, medical weight management, bariatrics, and corporate wellness. She served as the corporate wellness manager at CSX Transportation with 30,000 plus employees across 23 states for 13 years. Wow. Mary Beth holds a Master's of Science in Sports Nutrition and Clinical Nutrition from Florida State University and a Bachelor's of Science in Dietetics with a minor in Exercise Physiology from the University of Florida. She is an experienced and certified weight management specialist, 2016 Frank Barker Wellness Leader Award winner, and attended the Harvard Blackburn course in obesity medicine, focusing on treating obesity in 2021. Mary Beth has a high commitment to customer service, personalized well-being approach, and reducing population health risk. Her role is to lead and develop well-being interventions to drive engagement and define health management strategy to align with organizational goals. Mary Beth represents Baptist Health by serving on the Mayor's Council of Fitness and Wellbeing and Press Ganey Workforce Wellbeing Collaborative. So as you can see, we have a wealth of knowledge in Ms. Torres tonight, and we are so looking forward to just listening and learning. So Mary Beth, thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can share yours. And when you are ready, you can get started.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Happy New Year, 2023. Can you believe it? All right. Just want to confirm that everyone can see my screen. If you can, give me a thumbs up. All right. I'm assuming you can. All right. Good evening, everyone. I am extremely passionate about nutrition. I think our world makes nutrition very complex. So I wanted to just bring and talk a little bit about how we can get back to more balanced nutrition. That is one thing I think we struggle with. And I think it's just because we have a easy society where it's not easy to eat healthy. I mean, honestly. So I'm hoping that today you're going to take away some great little nuggets and that you can apply to your own personal health and wellness goals. Could be well-being goals, nutrition goals. But nutrition to me is so personal, it's cultural, it's preference, it's different for everyone. It's very unique. So I really want to try to give you really high level information about some of the good science out there today and what people are saying. So a healthy eating pattern. And we'll go over some current diets that you kind of might hear and some things that create pitfalls around that. But truly, what I really want everyone to know is that as a role, my role as a dietitian is to really help people um, build good, healthy relationships with food. The better that they can have that relationship with food and knowing that eating a balanced diet, and sometimes it may not be the best food, but it just, how often and how frequent is being okay with it. Commonly, most people that I work with, they tend to kind of put most of the challenges among themselves and they look at it as a failure if they ate something they shouldn't. And that's one of the things is I want people to feel have a good relationship with food as well. So good to hear. I will tell you here, the most recent studies have talked about really simplicity around healthy eating or balanced eating. They're talking about quality of food is more important these days than counting calories. Okay, if those who have some weight loss goals or counting calories, you don't need to count your calories as frequently as we've talked about. Quality of food is really should be the main focus. We're going to talk about that today. We're going to be centered around that. Portion control. I think we've all heard that. As well as just looking at ways of timing of our meals. Sometimes we don't realize timing of our meals do create some side effects that drive us to poor habits or sometimes into some medical challenges and issues. So healthy eating pattern, you hear this all the time. Eat more fruits and veggies, less junk, and try to limit your alcohol. Okay. I'm going to get a little bit more in detail today and really talk about it because some of those recent studies, as I talk about quality of food, is that, sugar is the new smoking for cancer risk. And that's just not sodas. That's also, juices they're talking about. So what I want to do is say how we can manage and have better nutrition, but also how food is fuel and how food can fuel you to feeling more energized, have a better day, and really be the best you. So we got to go over and then I got to talk about these diet trends. You're right. They're common. The media and the world of digital information has all of our consumers confused. And it really makes it kind of complex. You realize that diets and diet trends, they eliminate certain foods. And I think the conflicting information really sends people like, what's right, what's wrong. And so I'm hoping today, as I said, I want to clear up some of that information and see if we can help you become more balanced in your approach and understand that we shouldn't be eliminating food groups. We should be looking at better quality foods in each food group. Okay. Because that's really the way that you improve your nutrition. So pitfalls of diets. If you've ever been on a diet, you've ever looked at nutrition, number one, the word die is in diet. So I just throw that one out the window. So you're going to hear, I don't say the word diet a lot. I say nutrition. I talk about quality of foods. I just really kind of put food and nutrition in a better positive terminology where diet, I think sometimes can be very negative when we talk about. And I, of course, here put the definition of what Webster calls a diet, a practice or interest followed for a time with exaggerated craze. I'm sure some of you guys feel that way. It's often claimed as a quick fix. I'm going to be quite honest with you. In the 20 plus years that I've worked and seen people be very successful in improving their well-being and really their nutrition, it's not a quick fix. It's something that takes time, and it can, and what the quicker you focus on changing the quick fix, the shorter time it lasts. But usually you don't see long lasting results, which is our goal. We want long lasting results. So it does change over time, but as you'll see, if you've looked at during diet trends, they tend to be the same exact thing. Eliminate carbs, eliminate fats, go low fat, and so forth. So I think sometimes diets are just something that we're just trying to find a new thing to kind of gravitate to. So, and it can be expensive. It's amazing. I've had people come in telling me they're spending $500, $600 a month just on a specific plan. And I'm going, wait a sec, let's kind of figure out different ways we can swap things out without kind of breaking the bank. Because I bet you could use that funds and that money in different ways. So I do recommend, if you are trying to find the best way to really navigate a balanced meal plan or diet, my suggestion is to definitely try to find a nutrition professional who can help you with that. And today at the end of my presentation, I do have some good resources. I can send you to some great resources, but also some self-directed resources. And of course, one of them is the American Heart Association. You cannot go wrong. They have so much great information for all of my patients. I use a lot. And so I'll show you some great resources. They even have videos on teaching you how to just do basic cooking. So that's where I commonly hear people tell me they have challenges, they don't know how to cook. So there are some good videos for that. So let's get into the nitty gritty about recommendations from eating well. And as I said, I really focus on just basic balance. Number one, look at what you're consuming and what you're eating, and really kind of see how you can swap out some quality of your diet, and even timing of your meals. If you're going all day without eating, maybe we got to look at how you can spread that out a little bit more, because sometimes not eating all day long triggers hunger, lack of portion control, and so forth. But the quality of diet, you could eat a 2,000 calorie meal plan of totally processed food, or you could eat a 2,000 calorie diet with really more natural foods in their natural state. And your body is going to react better with those good, better quality foods than the processed food. Our bodies were not made to break down processed food that goes through a factory. And I know what you're thinking right now is, but that's the most convenience. And we have to look for convenience sometimes. You're right. So as you're going through and exploring your meal plan, I always suggest just try to swap and slowly phase out different foods within your meal plan. Don't do it all at once. That is that short-term, really quick fix pitfall that I was just talking about before. So when we talk about quality of diet, we really want to focus on trying to get those nutrient-packed foods. When it goes through a processing plant, what happens is it strips of all the good nutrients that food originally was. And so you're getting rid of those vitamins and those minerals and good fiber that normal plant-based foods have. So I always recommend try to add some color. You'll see a nice little colorful slide a little bit later, and you'll see what I mean. Just try to add some color, real basic things. Portion savvy. And I'm going to talk about carbs, proteins, and fats. You should eat every food group. You should not eliminate a food group unless you have specific allergies to them. I get it. That makes sense. But there are some opportunities for alternatives. And that's where I think working with a dietitian or a nutrition professional can help you kind of make sure you're not lacking in those vitamins and minerals if you have to avoid a specific food group. And so I always look at our plate, and I'm sure everyone has seen your plate where half of it should be fruits and veggies, a quarter of it grains, and a quarter of it lean meats. Those balancing your plate is super important. And that's something I think that's easily controlled. And then just making sure you have some good fiber and protein to pair up with each other. But, as I mentioned, really recommendations of eating well is retraining yourself very slowly. And we don't eat as much plant-based. So I think those are areas that are always room for improvement. And we're going to talk about eating on a budget, because that's something as well. People tend to say, well, Mary Beth, I just, it's a challenge. Inflation is making my grocery list or my grocery budget higher and spend. So let's look at that. We're going to talk about that, because that is the legitimate challenge. So carbohydrates, okay? I'm going to hit the one that I think we either avoid or we love. So let's set carbohydrates straight. We have good carbs and we have bad carbs. Those are kind of, the good carbs are those balanced carbs. I call them the natural carbs in the natural state. So they're pretty much higher in fiber and they come more in that natural state. As you see, there's a variety of different really good, healthy, balanced carbs that can be integrated into your meal plan. And unfortunately, we do have our bad carbs. Those are your AKA refined carbs. Those are the ones that we traditionally are the more convenient ones. So I recognize that. I understand that when I do work with people. Doesn't mean you can't have them. It's just recognizing how frequent they're in your meal plan and what you could potentially swap out. That's it. Not you can never have crackers or, potato chips. That is not balance, because if you said, no, I can't have something, emotionally, you are going to say, ooh, I want it. That's just the human nature of the brain. The brain's going to tell you, come on, let's eat it. You want it. You can't have it. You definitely want it. So I do want to just kind of throw that out there that, carbohydrates all fall in the same bucket, but it's how our body processes. So definitely try to integrate better carbs. So fruits, vegetables, starchy vegetables, corn, sweet potatoes, white potatoes, butternut squash. Those are all great. And a lot of people try to avoid them. If you're beans, you can't go wrong. They got good protein, they got good fiber, and dried or canned doesn't matter. If you're watching your salts or your sodium, rinse them off if you use them canned, because canned could be less expensive and also could be a little bit easier to prepare versus having to kind of prepare some dried beans. And don't forget about the dairy products. We tend to forget about dairy, and a lot of times we're seeing a lot of vitamin D deficiencies, and we're also seeing people having challenges around, good bones. That's what those dairy products are for, is building good bone structure. So don't forget about those. And there's always great alternatives. If you're lactose intolerant or can't tolerate milk products, there are some great recommendations. So what are the sugary six? Okay. And I'm sure everyone is aware, but wanted to kind of show you some of the top sugary six that I recommend if you find are more frequent in your meal plan. How could you potentially swap them out or just consume less? Our sodas, energy drinks, sports drinks, juices, number one, those are definitely the highest sugary. So the way your body processes an orange is completely different the way it processes orange juice. So just think of it that way. Candy, sweet baked goods, desserts, milk products, sweetened breakfast cereals. Sometimes when you consume those, they go so fast through your digestion that they spike and give you lots of energy, and then you hit a low, which causes cravings. So some people may not recognize the type of food they're eating earlier in the day, not just not eating, may be causing more cravings and not realize that that may be what's triggering those. So I think those, be aware, because these are the most common and they're the most frequent out there. So when we talk about eating more color, and this is actually a nice little handout on the American Heart Association that I'm going to kind of direct you to later on, but it just gives a variety of different options. And I believe when we talk about, being on a budget, eat what is in season. Eat what is on sale. Get a variety of different things, because trust me, all fruits, all different vegetables, they have a variety of seasons, and it helps you mix things up, and it doesn't break your bank. And that's just one of the best way that I just try to tell people is the more color you have in your diet, the more vitamins and minerals and nutrients you're going to have. So your body is going to be able to break down those vitamins and minerals better from natural food than also taking a pill full of supplements. You want to avoid having to take that supplement. You would prefer, if you could, get it from natural food. Okay. But look at, there's just a variety. I mean, it's just so much more appeasing if you can eat in color, just gives you, and I mean, the taste and so forth. So I think the more natural you get, your body gets accustomed, and especially the taste buds. Here's the thing most people didn't know. And when we'll talk about this when it comes to sodium, but um, people are so accustomed to eating salt, but your taste buds change every 10 days. And people don't realize is you can gradually start liking and changing your acquired taste just by just gradually changing it out. Think about, how do you think kids start liking certain foods? I mean, think about that. I had a kid who didn't like certain food, and then 2 days later, he liked it because he tried it, and then he just started trying it again. So um, sometimes I do work around nutrition similar to where I do work with my kids at home. So carbohydrates to me are, you should never avoid them. Carbohydrates are made for energy. It's just the types of carbohydrates we're consuming in our meal plan. So don't completely cross them off. Just figure out how to get a little bit more in the natural state and then in the processed state. I'm going to go to fats. Fats are needed. You need to eat some fat. Again, same thing as a carbohydrate. We have our quality fats, healthy fats, and we have those that are not so healthy. So if you see here some examples of those that might decrease your risk of cardiovascular disease, actually help unclog our arteries. Okay. Remember, when your cholesterol, you can have LDLs. These are your bad cholesterols. They clog your arteries. They block our plumage. But your canola oil, olive oil, avocado, fish, nuts, those are great resources and foods that actually help you improve your bad cholesterol and your triglyceride levels. So they're not clogging your arteries. So just remember this, if it's liquid at room temperature, it's going to be liquid in your artery. That's a good healthy fat. If it's solid at room temperature, it's going to be solid in your artery. So kind of your butters, your cheese, your heavy creams, your higher fat meats. I don't recommend eliminating those. I just say, see if you can find the leaner cuts of each of the meat products and just limit how much. And of course, I think, American Heart always says, lose the sugaries, the coconut oil. Coconut oil is a big craze today, but anything that's a trans fat or hydrogenated oils, you just need to be aware of those because those will increase your risk for cardiovascular disease. So as you see here, a fat is a fat, but you have a good fat that can help unclog your arteries and reduce your risk of heart disease. And then you have the solid fats and unhealthy fats that you definitely want to limit and be able to and reduce your risk. Okay. So we'll go into proteins because a lot of protein and fat kind of match each other. Protein's important, but it's not as important, or you don't have to consume as much as our society says you need to. About 20% of your diet should come from protein. I say about 20 to 25%, but that's not a lot. You get over 30 grams of protein just by a 4-ounce or piece of meat that's about a little bit more than the size of your hand. The size of a deck of cards is 3 ounces of meat. That is 21 grams of protein. One egg, 7 grams of protein. So we get a lot of protein, but just watch. You do not have to become a vegetarian to be balanced. You could eat all sorts of types of meat products, fish products, animal products, bean products, yogurts to have a very healthy, balanced diet. There's leaner cuts and there's higher fat cuts. The higher fat cuts just will have more of that saturated fat that I talked about. The leaner cuts will have lower saturated fat, but they all have the same amount of protein. Okay. But we don't need as much as our society thinks we do. It does put us a bit in a challenge when it does come with the higher fat, because that ends up being higher calorie. So I talked about the 3 macronutrients and quality options within each food group, and then poor quality in each food group. I'm going to go to the sodium. Sodium is one of those options that people don't realize they're consuming so much of. And hypertension is definitely one of those. If you don't have a genetic history of hypertension, sometimes the driver is around diet. 9 out of 10 Americans consume way too much sodium. Did you know that 70% of your sodium actually is coming from processed food or restaurant food? So just by swapping out more natural food and try to consume more at home versus restaurants. So if you're cooking at home, you know how to, salt your food. You're only getting about 11% coming from cooking at home versus if you're eating out. So that's a huge chunk. Don't skip out on the salt if you're cooking at home. Trust me, you need flavor. Salt, pepper are my staples in my house with certain spices, but it doesn't have to be fancy, honestly. And it really just helps with different health conditions. We just may not realize what it puts us at risk for. So I want to share with you the top 10 food sources that have sodium. So if you want to be part of the chat, are any of these surprising to you that have sodium that you didn't recognize their sodium? Feel free to add in the chat if you're surprised at one of these food sources that is very high in sodium. But what some of the things that you have, there's different ways that you can swap these out. You just have to, and you have to be very conscious about, and most of the, in how much you consume these. And honestly, a lot of times it's because sodium helps preserve food so they last longer. That's just a society we're in. We're trying to keep our food longer, and salt is the way that we do it, and sodium. So overall, and I know we have a really short time together, and I did want to talk about a little bit about budgeting, is, with healthy eating, there's so many different strategies. I don't think in the 20 years I've worked with so many different people on their personal meal plan, not a single person has the same outcome or the same strategy. I think people use different types of strategies, and you don't have to use every single one of them to be successful with the outcome you really want to get to. So the number one thing I always talk about is when you're really talking about balanced nutrition, first thing you have to do is you have to change your mindset. The mind over matter, and mind can, if you're not changing that mindset and you are having emotional triggers or you need to practice building a healthy relationship with food, I truly, truly suggest working on that first and recognizing if you do have emotional triggers or if your mind is just not ready to change, because you can't, if you have a diet mindset, it's not going to last for long. So really say this is a lifestyle change. That is one thing that I've recognized for most people is when they talk about a balanced nutrition, they've made their mind up and they stick with it. And, 90% of your success comes from thinking you can do it and the self-efficacy and the confidence that you can do it. So I find that you are really that driver around what really works best. I'm an 80-20 rule person. Okay. I like certain foods that may not fall on the healthy food, but balanced pizza, I'll throw it out there. So I like pizza. I'm going to eat pizza. So I really want people to understand that healthy, balanced nutrition is not about perfection. And if an 80-20 rule helps you kind of be okay with consuming things that are not on the healthy list, then I think that would work as well. That is, just a mindset that I think sometimes has really worked with some people in the past. Monitoring what you eat. Okay. Sometimes we have so much going on during the day. We are so distracted by so many different things going on. We don't even recognize, number one, we even ate. And then sometimes we don't recognize what we ate, or what we drank, or what we consumed. So you do not have to count calories. I'm not a big in counting calories. What I do recognize and I do recommend for people to do is seeing what you can monitor and just writing down. Some people use MyFitnessPal because we carry our phones everywhere that we go, and sometimes it's just a click of a button. But I have some people who have a notebook and they just jot down, oh, I ate, this is what I ate at what time. And then they're able to go back and recognize their eating patterns and say, oh gosh, I really needed to make sure I set an alarm for myself to eat breakfast because I'm skipping breakfast every single day. Um, and the more that you can consume your calories during the day, the less you're going to consume at night. There's a lot of research that the more we can bank our calories earlier than the day really helps us manage our portion control later on. And don't forget that, dining out is a real challenge. I mean, you go out and if you ever look at those menus, you can get one meal being about 1,500 calories. And they're just trying to get you to keep coming back. And trust me, those chefs are wonderful at how they cook foods. But I do think there's great ways that you could dine out less, really make some great tasting foods. Trust me, I love tasty food. So I trial and I do have to, I have 2 young kids, so I have to constantly think of things that are quick, fast meals. We have Taco Tuesdays. Every single Tuesday is tacos. I don't have to think about it. I know what to do. So if you need to dine out less, that's a way to save on budget. Here's 2 great resources that I absolutely love. Cooking Light and Eating Well are 2 great recipe resources that take traditional, really great recipes and help you modify them to just add better quality foods. And it increases some of the healthy fiber in there and really can cut some calories, but it doesn't eliminate the foods like the comfort food that you like. And it allows you to find different ways to try different things too. So just a few of those recommendations outside of just changing the types of foods that you have that are, people don't realize it's an environment that really focuses on how we eat. So if you're at work or you're at a location or a family outing and food is part of our family traditions, then if food's in front of you, it's like the seafood diet. You see food, you eat it. So I think, always looking at the mindset, but also the other emotional piece of how nutrition plays a role in your lifestyle is super important. And culture is huge when it comes to it. Everyone's different in that culture. So I'm going to go the last half. I'm going to just talk about budget. One of the things that I do want to kind of focus on around budget is commonly I hear when people do come in and say, oh, healthy eating is so expensive. Yes, if you're going to get a healthier cracker than the original cracker, that they will hike that price up. Doesn't have to be, eating healthy does not have to break your budget. And with inflation these days, trust me, I think everyone is feeling challenges around when they go to the grocery store and our bills, that we have to swap out some of the favorite things we love to do in our pastime and self-care because we have to support this inflation. We have to support higher cost. So what I tried to do for today's presentation is I wanted to kind of pull some of the top 30 cost-effective foods per serving out there. I was able to pull out of the top 30, 26 foods that for me, I would consider I'd put in that quality category in each of the different food options. Of course, I did from number 1 is the most cost-effective through the highest cost. So you'll see there's a variety of different options here. And take home today, if these are things that are typically on your grocery list, perfect. This is great. If they're not, take a bit of these nuggets and see how you can add while kind of substituting and swapping some of those out. See if that really can help you change without raising the cost of your grocery list. What I find is sometimes we go and try to buy healthy groceries and then we tend to buy our traditional and some go to waste. And you're right. It's challenging balancing that. Again, that's why I was mentioning try to work with a professional or just swap out maybe 2 or 3 things on your grocery list. Um, but all of these foods are considered in the better quality food option, and they are those on, within that budget for price cost per serving. So if you think about you, unfortunately, you don't see meat on here. Meat is one of the highest costs that are going out, and it's the highest cost per serving. So that is a challenge. So how can we really continue to eat a balanced meal plan with incorporating some of these? So wanted to make sure that we were being very applicable to these days and when we're talking, because the inflation and rise in costs of different foods is a real thing and it is a struggle. Other ways that you can cut cost, and I mentioned it before, is really sticking with seasonal produce as much as you possibly can. That actually even increases the variety of your diet. Some people get so bored doing the same thing over and over again, and they start integrating different kind of seasonal produce, and they just don't realize how they just try new things that they didn't even know that they really enjoy. If you have a chance to do a farmer's market, go to a farmer's market. Of course, that would be more cost effective. Or if you have a chance to buy in bulk, do that as well. I am never against and with buying frozen or canned fruits and vegetables. I don't think you always have to buy fresh fruits and vegetables. You don't always use them. And so I think to avoid waste and make sure that you're being budget conscious, buying frozen or canned fruits and vegetables can be a great way to save on your budget without really sacrificing quality of food. If you are watching the salt, just remember canned vegetables do have more salt. So a lot of times just rinse them out. So you don't have to buy the no salt. If it's 20 cents more expensive, buy the regular one, rinse it out, you rinse some salt away. So, practice meal planning. Try to cook at home. Dining out really is more than we anticipate. We don't realize how much that does count. But again, we have busy lives. We're looking for convenience. So I think that does throw some challenges, in our way. So just gradually do it. Don't do too much too soon. And I enjoy there's some great cost-effective grocery stores in here. And I'd love to see, put in the chat, if you have one of your favorite cost-effective grocery store, you could potentially save, share with the rest of the people attending. I love Freshfields. I think they only do produce and meats and seafoods. I think they're very cost-effective. Walmart, Aldi, those are great. Harvey's are some great options as well. But love to hear from any of the audience who have some recommendations of where you do find some, very cost-effective different items. But, I do have something on here and most people are looking at it saying, try a grocery delivery service. Mary Beth, that is so expensive. So that is only a recommendation for someone who has trouble sticking to a grocery list when you go grocery shopping. Because grocery delivery services are more expensive. I will say they do increase that cost. But if you find you cannot stick to a list and you're going and just randomly getting things, or you don't make a list at all, that is just not your style, I do recommend trying a grocery delivery service because that will help you stay within the lanes of what you need to get without over purchasing things as well. So to wrap it up, because I love the opportunity to do some Q&A, is where can you find some additional information? As I mentioned, nutrition is such a unique journey for every single person. Everyone has different food preferences, different lifestyles, different jobs, different timing. and of course different cultures. So and accessibility. I can't forget to say accessibility. Everyone has different accessibility to different things. So the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics is a great resource. That is where the dietitians, you can find a dietitian if you're interested in working with one as well on the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics. They have some great little handouts and recommendations on nutrition. If you are going to see a dietitian, I would just make sure they're a licensed dietitian nutritionist. There are a lot of nutritionists out there, but they're not licensed. So they may be kind of more on that diet trend than they are of a balanced nutrition. But again, the American Heart Association is an amazing site to go to. Healthy for Good has some wonderful resources. They have cooking demonstrations. They have quick little cooking modules. If you're just even learning basic knife skills, they have little educations around knife skills. They have some handouts. If you're saying, hey, I really want to try to swap out some foods with some healthy carbohydrates, what can I do? It is a wealth of knowledge, and it's wonderful. Anything that reduces cardiovascular risk, I think, goes on a healthy balance, because it can help if you have diabetes, if you have, if you're reducing your cancer risk, or if you're just managing a chronic condition, hypertension, etc. I think all of the foods that I talked about, or the nutrition focus I talked about today, can really help manage any kind of chronic condition you may be facing, unless it is kind of focused more on allergies and intolerances and so forth. Those can get a little bit more specialized. But overall, general good meal plan, this is, some great options and opportunities. So I'm going to close it there, and let's go to some Q&A. Love to hear from the audience, and if you have any questions, then we will open that up.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much, Mary Beth. What a great presentation. That was awesome. So we actually do have some members of our audience who did have some questions. So I do want to open that up. So we had a question from Miss Stephanie Gillum Brown. So she says, Stephanie says, I work nights. How can I balance my meals?
Oh, Stephanie, what a great question. I will tell you, I just always, here's timing. I think timing for you is going to be super important. I really look at what your work schedule is, and whenever you wake up from sleeping, okay, we all have the same 24/7, but your breakfast may be a different time. Your lunch may be a different time. Your dinner's a different time. I always recommend for people to try to, once they wake up, try to eat your breakfast or whatever meal that is within 2 hours of waking up. Really gets your body going, really gives you the nutrients and energy to really get you through the day. If you're looking at timing of meals, try to do your timing 4 to 6 of your meals, 4 to 6 hours apart. And then if you're going longer than 6 hours between a meal, try to add a snack between 3 or 4 hours. What that's going to do is build a really good cadence of your blood sugar control. And that will help not kind of eat something and then go all night and then all of a sudden eat too much. So eating 2 meals a day with big portions. So as I said, so I'll repeat. So try to eat your first meal 2 hours within waking up, and then trying to grab something every 4 to 6 hours. If not, grab a little snack. A snack can be 150 calories. It could be a cheese stick and an apple. I mean, you can take those out and put them in a bag and then eat that. That takes no preparation whatsoever. So if you need to do that twice, where you're doing a meal, 2 snacks during your night shift, and then a meal when you get home, see if that works, So hope that answered your question, Stephanie.
Thank you. Yeah, that's some really good tips there. So we have Miss Yvonne Walker. So she's raised her hand. So I'm going to allow her to ask her question live. So Miss Walker, whenever you're ready, just unmute yourself and ask your question.
I think my hand is frozen because our last session, my hand was raised and I didn't raise it.
Oh,
But I did put a check mark by my notes about your taste buds changing every 10 days. That was a surprise to me because I'm always saying now, the older I'm getting, my taste buds are changing. So it has nothing to do with my age, with the change.
No, it doesn't have to do anything. Well, I'm sure something with your age, but I want you keep on regenerating your taste buds. They just, you're not born with the same taste buds and then they go away as you get older or
Okay.
less sensitive. So it's like every other cell in your body. You're constantly generating new cells and you're making new cells. It's like your your fingernails. You grow your fingernails, you have to cut them and they keep on growing. Same thing with those taste buds. Train those taste buds to really, if you like something, you can always train them. It just takes some time. You may not immediately like it at first, and then over time it would. And I see it all the time with salt. People go, "Oh, I used to eat so much salt," and then they go, "Oh my gosh, I can't have anything with salt these days because they've trained their taste buds not to have high salty foods."
Okay. Thank you.
thank you, Ms. Yvonne. Okay, so I have a few questions. So can you tell us what are some common root causes of why someone would experience indigestion, constipation, and heartburn regularly?
Okay, that is a good question. So, heartburn and indigestion a lot of times is a side effect of eating too late before you go to bed. I always recommend try not to eat before 2 hours or a large meal. And traditionally, the American diet, our largest meal is dinner time, right? We grew up and it's our largest meal of the day.
Mhm.
So try, indigestion does come from the larger meals. Higher fat meals also cause indigestion closer to bedtime because protein and fat actually digest slower. And so it's sitting in your stomach where carbs go out of your system a little bit quicker.
Mm.
It's about 2 hours. But it could be alcohol also causes indigestion. Constipation, a lot has to do with two things: making sure you're hydrated, drinking enough fluids throughout the day, non-caffeinated fluids. Caffeine isn't always the trigger, but try to do non-caffeinated beverages, low calorie, non-caffeinated beverages. And a lot of times it's not eating enough fiber in our diet. We need to eat fiber. Traditionally for females, the recommendation is 25 grams per day.
Mm.
For males, around 35 grams per day. Our average American eats less than 12
Oh my
grams a
goodness,
day.
wow.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a big
So,
difference.
yep. Hydrating yourself and eating enough fiber is really, the side effect of a lot of driver around constipation.
Okay, thank you for that. So we have Miss Miriam Dixon. She has a question. So any suggestions for quick, healthy alternatives for breakfast for adolescents? I work with this population and getting them to eat breakfast is a struggle. Yes.
Oh, it's a struggle. It is a struggle. Yeah. I mean, even when I mentioned there are some really good, quick, high fiber granola bars and a piece of fruit and a cheese stick and have them out the door. Okay. These, I mean, and sometimes what I end up doing is, some kids like the pancakes and all that good stuff. Make them ahead of time, freeze them, stick them in the toaster. So it could be a whole wheat piece of toast with a little bit of peanut butter. Fold that peanut butter over and let them out the door. Whole wheat piece of bread, a banana, and out the door. So a lot of options. Even if you have to put a whole grain cereal in a baggie and head them out the door with a Go-Gurt that they squeeze in their mouth, that could be a good option too.
Mm. Oh, good. Yeah, that is a good point. The Go-Gurts, yeah. Okay, I have another question. So for those who might have difficulty preparing all of their meals from scratch, or those who don't cook, are there ways to incorporate ready-made food into their diets to still consume a balanced and nutritious diet?
That is the fun of convenience meals these days. I will say convenience has had a bit of a negative impact on our eating patterns, but also there's been some great options that have made it really quick and easy. So if you're not a cook, you could get rotisserie chickens already cooked from the grocery store. You
Yeah.
could do frozen veggies, the steamables. You can get any vegetable and any kind of healthy starch in a steamable bag and throw it in the microwave. As long as it's, I said the more quality, better types of foods, that's not as processed. Definitely watch how much sauce is on it, but no big deal. So there's a lot of good convenient options that way. If you wanted to look at delivery meals, like there are some services in Jacksonville who do deliver services, or you can pick up some healthy meals that do make it from scratch a couple nights a week without it being overdoing and too expensive. Those are some options as well. And you just had to heap it up. Kathy's Table is one of a great suggestion as well, where they do put everything in a container, very portion controlled. And then you can kind of throw it in the microwave and be able to then use it. But definitely check out the American Heart Association and their cooking skills videos. I believe everyone can cook. It does not take that long to do. Okay, I promise. I think a lot of times it tends to be like we think gourmet and have to be a lot.
Exactly.
And nope, doesn't have to. I have all confidence every person in this world can cook, and it just is just finding different ways that make it easy. But there are some more convenient options these days, like the frozen meals and frozen foods and stuff like that. You just got to watch on the sodium with the frozen meals with some of them.
Okay.
Yep.
And then I have one other question. So, as some of our audience members may or may not know, Baptist has partnered with the Blue Zones initiative that has come to Jacksonville. So, can you tell us how nutrition is being integrated into those efforts?
Oh, what a wonderful question. The Blue Zones initiative and effort is absolutely amazing. And I'm not just saying that because I'm a dietitian. I'm saying that because I have young children in this community. The Blue Zones and the opportunity I've seen from the Blue Zones is that they are going to come in and really focus on areas where accessibility, food deserts, after doing a very thorough evaluation, will kind of get some help around how we can improve nutrition in a variety of different healthy, and their belief is, how do you make healthy convenient, and how do you make it the easy way? So I think they really focus on policies and environmental beyond just, what I do is teaching people and educate them what a healthy, balanced nutrition is. So I think there's so many different factors in this, and Blue Zones coming into Jacksonville for the next 5 years. That initiative is not just going to be focused on the zip codes that they're looking at. It's going to bleed in our community, because I think that's just what Jacksonville is. And, everyone is there to support it. And I think that Blue Zones, I love it. They try to be find easy, healthy, easy, so.
Oh yeah, no, they definitely are. And just from what I know about what is about to be rolled out, it is some great resources, support for our community. And they have already started to have community meetings and things like that. So just to let the members of our audience know, I will be including information about Blue Zone. So if you want to get involved, or know when the next community meeting will be, they send out invitations for the community to come out and be a part, just to learn more about Blue Zone. So that will be available to you when I send out the follow-up information after this webinar. So are there any other questions? We have maybe about 2 more minutes. Didn't want to end if someone else had questions. You can raise your hand if you want to ask your question live. Give it about 30 seconds. Okay. All right. Well, Thank you so much, Mary Beth, for such an informative presentation and, for answering those questions. We really appreciate you taking the time to, be with us tonight. And so I just wanted to end with some very brief closing announcements. Oh, I'm sorry. We have Miss Lillian Holloman. We have a few more minutes. Let me allow her to talk. So I'm going to unmute you, Miss Holloman. Miss Holloman. And okay. Are you there? Feel free to unmute yourself.
No.
Did you?
I don't have any questions.
Oh, you don't
No
have any questions? Okay. I'm sorry. I
No.
saw your hand raised.
I'm sorry. I did it by
Oh, no, that's
mistake.
okay. That is okay. I'm just glad you're here. Okay. Well, just have some very brief closing announcements that I wanted to share. So there will be some electronic takeaway information that will be emailed in a follow-up email to all of our registrants on tomorrow. There is also a brief survey for tonight's session that I will be sending out as well. So we just ask that you take just a few moments to participate and share your feedback. We would greatly appreciate it. I'll also be including that in tomorrow's email as well. And let me share my screen because I wanted to make sure that you all are on the lookout for this particular flyer so that you'll recognize it when you see it. So we will be next month talking about heart health and stress management. So please be on the lookout for that invitation and please spread the word. All are welcome to attend. And then also, just take a look at the future sessions that we have scheduled through May, through the spring. So be on the lookout for those invitations in the coming months. So that ends tonight's session. Thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you again next month. And please spread the word. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.